I figured that now would be a pretty good time just to explore the communication style that coaches must adopt in order for coaching to be coaching. There's two ways in which we can communicate and interact with others. We can communicate in a directive way, which is kind of like pushing people, telling people what to do. And then we communicate with people in more of a non-directive way, which kind of draws the best out of people. Think about heavy-handed parenting. What is heavy-handed parenting? It's just simply when a parent will direct their children. Do this, don't do this. Do this, don't do that. You can probably relate. Think about a directive teacher, perhaps you had in school, right? I can remember one of my high school teachers, Mr. Roper, very directive. Do this, sit quiet, do that, do as I've told you. In Scotland, our high school teachers were quite hard back in the day. Non-directive, very, very different. Non-directive is about inviting you to reflect. I'm inviting you to think for yourself. I'm inviting you to try on some of these ideas. See what you like, see what you don't like, and if you don't like something, why not? If you do like something, why? All right? Non-directive communication is about inviting people to think for themselves, take responsibility for their own minds, for their own actions, for their own behaviours, by sometimes presenting them with options. Directive is about pushing people into a direction that we want them to go in. So it's more manipulative, more controlling. So this is kind of the spectrum, all right? It kind of looks like this. If we are going to take a directive approach to communicating with people, we're going to tell people what to do, or we just teach. This is the right way, this is the model, this is the process, this is what you've got to do, and this is how you've got to do it. If I was to take that approach to teaching, what I'm not offering you is any opportunity to kind of figure things out for yourself. What I'm not going to do throughout this training is tell you that there is a one-size-fits-all approach to life coaching that you can take to get transformative results, because there isn't. Right? Anyone who claims that there is doesn't have a clue what they're talking about. It's as simple as that, because life cannot be put in a box. All right? So telling people what to do is more, you would experience that more in the context of a relationship. Teaching people what to do is an approach that I took back in the very early stages of my life coaching. Practice. Like I would kind of teach people and tell people a little bit. My communication style was directive. But I'm hoping you'll understand this as I remind you of what my first career was. I spent 10 years in the military, which is directive. You tell people what to do, you advise, and you teach. That was the first time I ever taught in the army. We would deliver lesson plans, and we weren't presented with all these communication frameworks back then. Information would just get delivered in one way, and it was directive, and anyone who didn't remember this information wasn't good and wouldn't get promoted. It was a very black and white mindset. But we understand today how it is that people can be better influenced. We can influence people by creating space for people to think and make their own decisions. Telling people what to do and teaching people how things are isn't creating space for people to make their own mind up. It's controlling, it's saying that our way is the only way. And the same applies in coaching. Think about some of your own personal relationships. Think about some relationships that you might have that aren't quite as close or as intimate as you might like. All right, I have coached and I've trained many people over the years who said, oh no, this is where I've gone wrong with my children. I've been teaching them and telling them and advising them for years, and I've pushed them away. Directive pushes people away. Non-directive pulls and draws people closer to you. Voicing an opinion. All right, do you know how valuable your opinion is about anything? It's about as valuable as mine, right? I might have an opinion about how you should live your life, but how valid is that? It's completely irrelevant. You might have an opinion about my communication style, but how relevant is that? It's not. It's completely irrelevant. Why? Because we all see and perceive things differently. We all have biases, we all have prejudices. So my opinions are always only ever going to be based upon what I like and what I don't like. Your opinions are always only ever going to be based upon what you like and what you don't like. Completely subjective. Opinions are always completely subjective. Right. I want to draw a line in the sand here, all right, and say that within the context of coaching, there is no room for telling people what to do. There is no room for teaching people. There is no room for advising or for voicing opinions. None of these things are welcome within the context of a life coaching relationship, which leaves us with the opportunity to ask questions for clarity. What value do you think there might be in asking a person questions over telling them what to do? How much more value do you think that another person might get from receiving feedback about their communication style than advising them or telling them in how they should be communicating in a more effective way? I don't know if you've related to that, so let's frame it in a slightly different way. How do you respond to people who advise and tell you what to do? Do you feel valued by these people? Do you feel like you really want to spend more time with these people? Do you feel like you really want to open up with these people? Or do you feel like you're just kind of closing off and you might humour them, but you're not really going to acknowledge them, and you're most likely not going to respect them either? Why? Because giving people advice and telling people what to do is completely undermining of another person's ability to make decisions for themselves. All right, this is it. Now, many parents get this wrong, which is why I have to spell these things out in a coaching relationship. I've come across many coaches over the years. I'm talking hundreds of thousands I've worked with and I've trained. All right, many of whom I've met who bring some sort of really warped parental approach into their coaching and advise and tell like they're some sort of life gurus that have all the answers. And this is so unhelpful. You don't want to be told what to do in life, and in the same way, no one else does either. All right? But when we give people feedback in life, when we ask questions, if I was to ask you questions, wow, okay, so I can see that you are taking this course for a reason. You are taking this course for a reason. What reason, what part do you think this reason might play in perhaps you developing the perseverance that's going to be required to build some sort of career path out of this? And then it's time for me to shut up. And it's time for you to respond. And if you do respond, then I can offer feedback. Wow. So what do you think your main reason is for taking this course? You know, what's your main overriding purpose? And again, I'll shut up. Because my responsibility is not to tell you what to think. My responsibility is to create space in which you can think for yourself and work things out for yourself and make decisions for yourself and perhaps become a bit more aware. And I don't even know if my questions are going to be the right questions to ask. But I can only ask questions that feel appropriate, that are sensible, that are kind of suitable for the context in which our conversation sits. Because if I do this, if I ask questions and give feedback when appropriate, then I might just help you to raise awareness by looking at parts of you that perhaps you've not looked at yet. If you say, yeah, I want to complete this life coaching training course because it's a really meaningful career path. It's a meaningful career path. And what specifically do you feel is meaningful about it? I reflect back what you say, and then you might, if you give that some more reflection, might become a little bit clearer on what your actual motivations are for wanting to coach people, which are going to be one of three things, by the way. You're going to be taking this training course for one of three reasons. To make a name for yourself, because many people do, become the life guru and become the social media superstar or one of the next ones. To make money for yourself and get rich off deceiving people into thinking that you have all the right answers for their life. Or you're taking this training course so you can learn how to positively influence people in a way that's really going to make a positive difference in people's lives. So you want to make a name for yourself, you want to make money, or you want to positively impact other people's lives. Your ultimate motivation will determine how effective you're going to become. It will go on to determine how credible you are seen as in other people's eyes, how much people trust you, how much they respect you. And you might be able to fool some people some of the time, but you won't be able to fool all people all of the time. All right? So, what I'm saying here is that coaching must be a non-directive process, because I don't know what you don't know, and I don't know what your goals are, and you don't know what they don't know, and you don't know what their goals are, and you don't know what their priorities are. And unless you ask questions and reflect back what you hear, you're not creating any space for them to think and actually get clear, to grow in awareness, this awareness which is going to enable them to set wiser goals or set more congruent goals and make wiser decisions. Make sense? Right, so I'm going to wrap this up here. I just want you to think about this. All right, take 5 to 10 minutes and just evaluate your own communication style. So this is the approach that you're taking. For some people are going to have to work a lot harder to develop this non-directive communication style than what others will do. All right, so listen, evaluate yourself, evaluate your current communication style. And if there are any relationships in your life that aren't working so well, that aren't as connected as what you would like them to be, ask yourself the question and answer honestly. What part does your communication style play in determining those relationship outcomes?